Ankle mobility is something that's frequently sought after, whether that's for a deeper squat or just left stiff ankles. People really want more ankle mobility a lot of the times, and what they're referring to generally is dorsiflexion, which is the ability for the knee to translate forward more over the ankle. When people do ankle exercises, they're generally some sort of banded stretch or some sort of dorsiflexion stretch where they're trying to push their knee over the ankle with keeping their heel flat on the ground. Now, I think those things are great and they're certainly awesome tools in the toolbox, but I think we can take a little bit more of a global approach to this and understand why sometimes people stretch over and over again for days or weeks or months on end and don't actually see improvements within their ankle mobility. So when someone has a forward center of mass that's being pushed onto their toes, it's generally starting from a pelvic position that is forward. Now, if your pelvis here is forward and your femurs are down here, then the line of force going through your body is going to be more directed on your forefoot. When that happens, we're going to be biased towards more of that late pushing off phase when we're walking. That's going to be when our ankles are going to be in more of plantar flexion, as we call it. That means that our calves are going to be working in a concentric manner. They're going to be firing. So if we're always on our toes, that means our calves are going to be in a position to fire and be concentrically oriented. So it might not be a matter of stretching out the ankle and calf over and over again. That can have value, but if we're still walking on more of our forefoot, then we're always going to have these tight calves because that's when our calves need to be firing during the gait cycle and in life. So a better strategy might be to actually take the pelvis from this forward orientation and bring it back to a more neutral state. That will allow us to sense more heels throughout the day because when we walk, we do want our heel to strike the ground first. And that will allow us to have a nice, even gait cycle, a nice ability to transition from a position where the ankle can go from a neutral to a dorsiflex to a plantar flex state. And that is ultimately the goal, to be able to do all of these things and not just be biased towards one. This is the same reason and goes along with the video I made about hamstring stretching, because when that pelvis is forward, you're going to have a hamstring that is more in a stretched position, which could be contributing to this ankle mobility issue. So an exercise that I linked in that video would also be very applicable in this circumstance, because that's going to allow us to bring that pelvis from a forward state back to a more even one, help us find our heels and take stress off of those calves to restore ankle mobility.